to Marcy.
Hi, my name is Marcy. I'm an addict. Hi, everyone. I'm very grateful to be here. And funny thing is, I got clean as a teenager, and I think I'm speaking to you going through menopause. If you see me sweating, the fan's on, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'll start off, because this is Youth in Recovery. I'll start off by just telling you right out. I got clean at 18, right before I turned 19. And through the grace of God, this program, the steps, conventions, my sponsor, my good friends, even my family, and my desire to stay clean. I've been clean 29 years, 8 months, and some days. And thanks. And I think that as I sit here and look around, the funniest thing is I was expecting, youth. No offense, but nobody looks so young in this room right now, you know? So what I think is neat is I'm really hoping that some of you guys also got clean younger too, you know? I think what I'll start with, I don't know, I asked God to just tell me what to say. I don't know. I think for me, getting clean young, absolutely I was done. I had, the day I came in, I had no reservations that I had done enough. My drug-a-log, my trouble-a-log, my whatever you want to call it, I had done enough. But enough is never enough. We're addicts. So sure, I would have liked to have done more. I would have liked to, but I had discovered at that young age, unfortunately, that I do not know how to use successfully. And I really, truly believed in my heart that I was gonna die or end up in jail. I would never have gone to an institution. That's just me. I would have opted out some other way. So I would have probably died. My using was excessive. My actions were dangerous. My associations were not the people I would want my daughter hanging out with. I obviously made poor decisions, and that's not just because I'm an addict, it's because I was still a kid. You know, when you start using at 10, you're not making good decisions at 10, whether you're an addict or not. Part of what I really, really like to share when I share on whatever subject matter with whomever I'm sharing, we're human. Humans are fallible. Humans can also learn and change and grow. And especially as a teenager, as a kid, you know, I still had a lot of living and growing to do. So I got clean by some people suggesting I go to a meeting with them, and I went with them, and I thought, oh, these are my kind of people. You're just not using drugs, because if you were not my kind of people, I probably wouldn't have stuck around. But you were my kind of people, and it was the sense of belonging almost right from the beginning. I, could identify with you, I could connect with you, I could relate to you. However, it was tough when I got clean, because in my area, there were only enough meetings to fill up basically one piece of paper, and that was Chicago. So for some of you folks in some smaller town areas, I guess you got clean when you needed to, because perhaps 30 years ago, there weren't even NA meetings in your area, and you can only get it when you know about it. I mean, there are people out there using right now, they don't know anything about NA. They don't know any other way. They're living their life. They're going to live their life using ripping, running, and then they're going to die, and that's going to be their life. And for whatever reason, I, like you all, were blessed to know that there's opportunity for change, that there's an opportunity to live a different life. But again, when I talk about live a different life, I was, it was just before I turned 19. I'm just saying 19. I was 19. What did I know about life and what I wanted out of life and what was the life I was living versus the different life? All the things that I hadn't done yet were very prominent once I got here. I felt I had done enough until I got here and heard some of you, and then I was like, oh, I never did that. And then it was, I didn't do that yet. And, it was very, very conflicting because though I was grateful I never had to get to some bottoms, there was this little, reservation list I kept at the back of my head. If I ever I am definitely going to try that, If I ever go out there and need money, thank you for teaching me how to, rip, run, and steal even worse than I already knew, I was concerned with the little things, like I've never legally gone into a bar and ordered a drink. I say legally because I was going to bars and drinking from 13, but I never got to say, here's my ID, and I was concerned with that whole someday I want to get married and I'm not going to even have champagne at my wedding. Okay, anytime I drank champagne, I puked my ass off every single time. Why was I holding on to things like that made my life miserable? Especially as a kid, you can glorify anything. And you can always have that thought of, well, later, or maybe then, or when I grow up, I'll learn how to do it right, Maybe I was drinking champagne wrong. It's easy to tell yourself those kinds of things. But I'm really appreciative for the predecessors in my area that came up to me and said, keep coming back, Mars. In that tone. It wasn't keep coming back, it was keep coming back. And you just keep coming back. And sometimes that almost sounded like a threat. Sometimes that sounded like, like you don't really want me here, but I'll prove you. I will keep coming back. And I did. The one thing I did 100% successfully is I did not ever pick up again. I am not going to stand here and tell you I have been spiritually recovering for 29 years, etc. Come on, anybody that tries to tell you that, they're full of crap. I can even tell you that there were chunks of time, of years, where I will say after my first 10 years, I was faithful to this program for the first 10 years. Then there was a lot of chaos in Chicago in that time frame and stuff with our service office and chaos and drama and and money gone and this and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I didn't get clean for this. I'm going to go, out in the real world. But there is some validity to that. You have to eventually learn how to grow up. And, it was really the people in this program that taught me these things. Genuinely, my parents did not teach me stuff. They did not. I went to the bank myself when I was like a kid with my babysitting money and opened my own bank account. And they were like, where are your parents? They have to sign for you. I was like, they'll steal my money. I'm not telling them where I put my money. This is my money. And do you know that bank opened my bank account without my parents? I was like, look, my mom this, my dad that, I'm trying to do better, though I didn't know any better. But the people in this program taught me that it's also okay to grow up slowly. I still had to make some mistakes and learn from them. I still had to, I hesitated for a moment. Oh, good. Your kids aren't staying in the room, are they? Only because some of what I may say may not have been appropriate and it would have made me feel badly, so forgive me for interrupting. Yes, thank you. I just was checking. Okay. I'm conscientious today, I guess, Anyhow, when I encountered, people in the program, most were a lot older than me, but I did find my way to, my group and people that were younger and a crowd of us. And, we still had to grow up and do some things. I wanted to go in clubs and go dancing, when I was 21. I wanted to do some of these things. I wanted to go, into a casino or just do the things that you get to do when you are 21. Well, you know what people told me? Don't go alone. Go with other NA members. Go in a group. It doesn't say in our literature anywhere that you are not allowed to go to a disco. Did I say disco? I'm old. You are not allowed to go to, it doesn't say that anywhere. But I definitely learned that left to my own devices, I would probably make poor choices still, especially in areas that I wasn't familiar with. So we would go as a group. In Chicago, there were a couple of juice bars and places I was able to go, but it was really conflicting because I was doing things still, some, lying, cheating, stealing kind of stuff that I really wasn't mature enough to grasp all of these concepts. And what I'm so grateful for is the people taught me it's not all or nothing. The only thing that's all or nothing is just don't use. And that I did. I didn't use. And then I learned. And then I did. I had to grow up in recovery. There were definitely times I fell down. There were definitely times that I did things that I'm not proud of. However, I can see past those things and be proud of the way I handled the situations afterwards, or, who I talked to about them, or, like I said, some of the people in these rooms shared very, detailed accounts of what they did out there. And I was one of those jokers that was taking notes. Instead of learning from their mistakes, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Never thought of that. So unfortunately, what happened was the addict in me still found ways to act out, still found ways to, carry on with addictive behaviors and patterns and find new habits. Some of them could have been deadly, maybe not as lethal as using and as, immediately deadly, but when you're 22 and you're pregnant, and that was, a couple years clean, and I'm just saying for the record, not that it really matters, but I used protection. I got pregnant anyway. It was whatever was God's will, this was the situation. However, I will say that I was acting out in such ways that I did not know who the father would have been. That's very, very humbling to say. However, you can't change the past. And it was just another example and another way to learn that I'm still not cured. I'm not fixed. I will always be an addict. I was born an addict. I lived my life as an addict. What I'm trying to do on a daily basis today is live my life as a recovering addict. I try my best today to, do it 24/7, 7 days a week. Back then, 4 to 5 days, most parts of the day. Once nighttime came, the attic roared. It was hard. There are people coming in the program these days that are even younger. The young, 13, 14-year-olds, I kind of have a conflict in my mind. There are times I want to go up to someone and go, "You're not done." "Nah, I don't think you're done." But it's not for me to judge. So I try to give them the same support I got from my predecessors. And if they are using and acting out there, not like a child, but they're doing things and ripping and running to the point where they've gotten to this chair, if you made it here, you're supposed to be here. That's what I heard, And so I think that part of my role today in being able to give back and work the 12-step, I really, really make an effort to approach the young people, the newcomers, but particularly the young people. As of late, I have had just a run of young kids that I'm like losing my patience with. I'm sure some of you can relate. But when this particular person recently sent me a text like it was to her, it was like 911 emergency, okay? She lied to her mom and said she was going to a meeting, but instead she went out with friends, and now she's in trouble and she doesn't know what she's gonna say, and she has to talk to her counselor and her mom. Help me! Well, there's a big part of me that's like, call me when something's freaking serious, that's not, but you know what? I have to step back and think to myself, that's serious to her. That's important to her. It's not for me to judge why people use. Because I've seen adults come in this program that say, my parents were wonderful, I grew up in a loving home, we had all the money in the world, I had a car, I didn't have a curfew, like that, like lily white life. And sometimes I'm like, so why'd you mess it up, When you're an addict, you're an addict. It is what it is. And when it starts young, I guess the problems and complications in your life are different than the problems of the, 50-year-old man who lost his wife and his house and his kids and is looking at potential jail or whatever. And you know what? In her mind and in her feelings at that moment, that was as real to her and as important to her as those other situations are to someone of a different age group. And she needs someone that's going to validate that and say, I understand, and that can be scary, and be brutally honest with your mom. What happened has already happened. Don't compound it by now lying and making it, I had to do my best to. I also deal with my sponsees as I say to them, I can't help it, but sometimes the mom comes out. I am a mother. I have a 25-year-old daughter, and I'm sponsoring, a 20-year-old girl. So how do I not, cross that line between I'm your sponsor, I'm an addict, but I'm also a mom, and I believe that people are put into my life for a reason, and that if I have experience, strength, and hope, it doesn't say share the experience, strength, and hope you have learned only within the NA literature or in the NA room, in the meeting. I don't recommend outside entities, but if I'm talking to a 20-year-old kid and she's talking about getting kicked out of her house if she doesn't finish college, the mom in me, I just can't help it. But I believe that that's part of the gift that I have to offer, because thankfully I was clean when I got pregnant. And my daughter did not grow up in these rooms. I was healthy enough to know that this is not where you want to, raise a child if you can help it. if you have little kids and they have to go to an open meeting with you or something of that nature, you do what you have to do to stay clean and to get your recovery. But by then I had, 4 years, it was fine. Right now, though, in terms of, what I look at youth in recovery and my youth that I grew up in recovery, I sometimes have those moments where I feel now wise beyond my years kind of a thing, and sometimes it's almost a little awkward. It brings me back to being a kid at school, being really, really smart, because I was. But I didn't want to be smart. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be, able to hang out. And now I actually sometimes have awkward moments where I'm like, don't say how long I've been clean. I want to hang out. I want to go to IHOP. They're not going to want me to go with them. And it's almost a strange, awkward feeling of having this amount of clean time. And I'm still me. I don't want anybody to look at me in, because I only have the same one day you have, and, yesterday I had a pretty good, healthy, clean day. Day before that, pretty healthy, lately it's been really good. 3 years ago, I was sick. I was doing naughty things. It was bad. It was a bad time. It took me some time to figure out what I was going through again. Here I am, still working steps and still finding out things. And, when you start to dig past the layers and obviously there were some things going on that made me feel like wanting to escape at 10 years old. So I had to dig pretty far back, and it took me time. And I'm glad that, people were patient with me. I'm grateful that I was patient enough with myself to let me grow and learn. And sometimes you don't figure out this stuff until you become the parent, or until you become the adult taking care of your aging parent. I can't stress enough that it's amazing how much just being willing. I don't know always the how or the why it's going to work out or what I'm supposed to do next, but if I'm willing and I'm honest and I'm open and I talk with people about it, it gets better. It just gets better somehow. I am an adult today. I'm not a perfect adult. I hope the IRS isn't listening. I have not filed my taxes now in 4 years. I don't know why. They owe me money. Why don't I send in my taxes? I don't know why. There is some messed up little thing right in there somewhere that's the fear of success kind of stuff. That's weird. It's one thing to have the fear of failure and all that, but when you get to the point where fear can even be fear of successful things, it can be debilitating. And that's not one that everybody understands. But you're only as sick as your secrets. This is not the first time I mentioned it. I am praying that I will actually act on it and take care of this and get this taken care of someday. But there are other things too. And I have admittedly, had some dark years in these, years that I've been clean. But, if you don't use and you keep coming back, it's going to get better. It's gotten better for me, and I'm no special or different than you. It's going to get better. I don't know if there's anything more I have to say. I just had that moment of that mental block where it's it just turned off, the teleprompter stopped rolling. I'm supposed to stop talking, but I really appreciate just having the opportunity to share And if there's anything that I've said that has, struck a chord in you, then I appreciate hearing that. And I love it when people will come up and talk to me and share your experience, and we can go, there's a beautiful place here at Camp Mac, sit down and talk about it. And if in any way I can ever be of any help to anyone, I'm always, open to do that and giving out my number. Really hot guys I try to stay away from, but if you're average, you can have my number. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks very much for listening. I'll keep coming back.
Please help me welcome the next speaker, Heather R.
I'm an addict named Heather. I just got asked a few hours to do this workshop, so I'm kind of like nervous. I don't like to talk in front of people. And I've been sitting the last few hours too, trying to disqualify myself. I'm like, I'm not young anymore, I'm 26, and blah, blah. And then I'm thinking, I live at home with my parents, they are supporting me financially. I don't have a job at the moment, so I still feel pretty young. When I first came to Narcotics Anonymous, I feel kind of grateful because I didn't look for the differences. When I went to my first meeting, I really could relate to what people were sharing about their feelings, maybe not the circumstances, because my bottom didn't seem as bad or as deep as some other people's bottoms were, but it was enough for me. The feelings I could relate to, because I wanted to kill myself. I tried to kill myself and I was unsuccessful a lot of times, and sorry, I'm nervous. I'm just going to take a moment. I don't even know where I was going with that. Sorry. I had treatment a couple days ago, so my brain goes in and out. It was on Thursday. I actually got into someone else's car thinking it was my own, so yeah. My concentration level is like down here. But anyways, I could have disqualified myself. I could have looked at all the differences between everybody, but I didn't. And I am really grateful for that. I think youth in recovery is kind of segregating a little bit in a way. Because I don't know, when I got clean, there weren't any females my age. There weren't a lot of men my age. It was a lot of old men. And I don't know, they just told me to keep coming back, and I listened. I was desperate to find something different. I needed something different. I got clean, I spent time in jail. And I was searching for an answer, a solution, and when I finally, surrendered and I got a sponsor and I started working steps, I found that relief. When I was at my first meeting, I was so isolated, like in myself. I had no self-respect left. I had no self-worth. I didn't care the things that I had done using, and I didn't use for a long time. I probably used for maybe 4 or 5 years, but I went down so quick. And I never thought that I would do the things that I did to get one more. But thankfully, I found a solution. I found a program that works for me, and I took suggestions. I took a lot of suggestions. I did the 90 and 90, and I got a home group, and I became a service. I did service. I got a service position within my home group, I did what I had to do, even if I didn't necessarily feel like what they were telling me was going to work for me. But it worked, and I stuck around. I kept coming back, and I didn't pick up no matter what. And I've had a bottom in recovery where I didn't think that this program was for me. But really, it wasn't the Narcotics Anonymous program. It was the people that I was surrounding myself with. And I really had to get with it. I had to broaden my base, and I had to find a new way to live, in recovery. And it wasn't easy. When I first got clean too, I felt so alone. I felt like I was never going to have a life. I was depressed. How was I going to meet people, and what was I going to do? Because I had to throw away my entire life if I wanted to stay clean. And I did that, and what I've come to find is I had to practice a really good third step. I had to find a life worth living. And I'm doing that today. I graduated from college, and I passed my nursing boards, and I'm still waiting on a license. Hopefully they will give it to me. I don't know if they will. I have this great network of women, and we meet every other Tuesday, and that's been huge for me, really getting honest with a few people in my life so I can hold myself accountable, and they can hold me accountable for my shit. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have cussed. But I don't know. There are a lot of young people in Cincinnati, and I don't really associate with them. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not about that drama today, and I was about that drama when I first came in here a little bit, and I realized that wasn't gonna work, and I had to do something different. I don't know, I guess not only the third step, but the first step, really. Powerless for me isn't just, I couldn't control my drug using. It was, I had to try every means and ways to get out of myself. I didn't want to have anything to do with myself. And I had to get really, really honest, because it really wasn't about the drugs. It was about my behavior. I was in psych wards, and it wasn't always for using. It was for eating disorders. It was for suicide. It was a lot of stuff. I played sports competitively forever, and it was like I had to dive into one thing after another, and so that was another way that I found I could relate to other people, because it wasn't just the drugs. It wasn't just all the misdemeanors and the felonies and the stealing and the lying and everything like that. It was what I was doing to myself, just trying to fill a void. And I'm trying to do something different today. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful. I was here last year, and I think I made it to one workshop because I was so caught up in fear and self-centeredness that I didn't leave my yurt. It was really, really bad. And I had to re-surrender to the program of Narcotics Anonymous. I've been saying, I had to find a new way to live, and it's not easy. It's not easy doing that in recovery at all. And it is sometimes hard to find people that you feel like you can go and ask for certain experience with, especially when you're surrounded with a bunch of old dudes. But luckily, I don't have that problem today. My sponsor got clean really, really young, and she's been clean for a really long time. And I have people around me my age today in my network that are younger. I think I'm the youngest in my little group of friends, but they have experience, and they have strength, and they have hope, and they pick me up all the time when I need to be picked up, and when I can't love myself still clean. I don't know. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm really grateful to be out of a fucking yurt. I'll tell you that much. And I'm grateful that I can get outside of myself even a little bit, because I really didn't want to say yes to doing this. That's for sure. I don't know. I think that's all I got.
We will now open the mic for any closing comments. Would anyone like to share?
These microphones always kind of freak me out. I'm Allie, I'm an addict. You know, it seems really perfect that the last workshop was what, similarities versus differences, and then this is youth in recovery. Because I was introduced to recovery when I was 17 years old. There was a counselor at the psych ward that I had been going to recommended to me and gave me a meeting list. So like fresh out the psych ward, I'm going out there, and you know, I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and you know, it was one of those things, like, talk about a segregating thing, that I was going to a lot of meetings where, you know, I was told, you know, I spilled more dope than you ever shot, you know, stuff like that. And like, I felt apart from, and I felt different. And before I knew it, it was like, I remember I was talking to this one lady, and she talked about finding similarities rather than differences, right? And I started relating on the fact that, like, oh, you know, you shot dope too, you know, like on those circumstances. And I found that that wasn't enough to be able to connect with people for me, you know what I mean? And she was like, well, you know, try to find it at like a deeper level. Think about the feelings. And like, I was so disconnected from my body and my feelings that when I heard other people talk about it, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm either angry or, am I allowed to curse in here? Or really messed up, like I feel fucked up, you know? Those were the two things I could identify, the two feelings I could identify. And so it was like, I would just listen for people who were angry and fucked up, you know? And you know, I was really, you know, I felt very different from, and I learned that like I wasn't done, you know. You know, 2 years later, coming in and out, I moved to Philadelphia, and, you know, being strung out and homeless kind of taught me that I am an addict, and I remember, like, you know, like the trying to kill yourself stuff, and failing and being like, oh, I even fail at this, you know, like, why? And I remembered the only place I ever had any glimpse of people being happy, joyous, and free was in here, you know what I mean, in Narcotics Anonymous. And so I started going to meetings in Philly, you know, and got clean out there, and that was a little over 7 years ago now. And like, I can tell you that, you know, no longer do I feel that way about being different because I'm young. You know what I mean? That I haven't gone through enough, that I haven't experienced enough, that like I earned my seat in here, period. You know, I earned it because I had enough pain. And I don't know, man, like I feel really blessed to come in here at the age I did, because it's like I've got to experience so much life, like being so scared that my life was going to be over because I got clean. You know what I mean? That there's no more fun to be had. And like, it's so the opposite. It's like I get so excited about life and the opportunities I have today, and like, man, it's just the freedom I experience on a regular basis, like the mental and physical and spiritual freedom I now experience. And it's because of going to meetings and getting a sponsor and working steps and being of service and like all of these things that they recommend in here, and, you know, living my recovery to the best of my ability. And it has opened up so many doors in my life. And like another addict was talking about, you know, like growing up in here. And like, not only like I'm growing up in like a responsible manner, but I'm also growing up and like learning about myself, you know what I mean? And feeling connected to myself and finding, you know, like how I can be of service to my community and like feel connected in so many ways. And I don't know, man, it's like finding out that like, cause there's still so many things like I'll want to use as like I don't feel a part of, like it's my addiction, it's my disease, like I still want to feel like isolated, disconnected, stuff like that. So it's like, you know, coming in here and realizing that like certain, like finding my own belief systems, you know what I mean? Finding out that like I don't want to have a family till like probably much later in life, if a family at all. Like I'm not really down with marriage. Like all these different things, like, and finding out like who I am and what I want to do and where I want to go with life. And like, it's so beautiful because going through this process of finding out who I am and then being like, oh, I'm different from, and then having it come around reverse, and like this gentle shift in perspective is all it takes to feel connected. And I remember somebody suggested to me like, well, if you don't feel connected when people are sharing about, you know, their children, why don't you realize like you are the child and maybe your parents feel that way and work on your relationship with your parents in that way. And it's like these small things that made such a humongous difference in my recovery. And like, how about that? I just moved to Indiana like a month ago. And it's because I followed through with school and I graduated and got a degree and like got a dream job doing what I've always wanted to do and being so fearful before I came out here. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just insane. It's like I was so excited and so full of anxiety in the same moment. And like these conflicting things inside of me. And you know what I've been taught is like, you know what? Pray about it, share about it, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. That's all you can do, you know? Like, let go, surrender. Like, there are infinite levels of surrender. And the more I resist that surrender, the more pain I cause myself. And like, man, I feel fulfilled today, you know? And that's different. I feel like I have purpose today, and that's different. And like there's hope, you know? And yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I gotta share.
Thanks for sharing.
Would anyone else like to share? I would. I don't want to, but so my name is Jordan Manadic.
Hey, Jordan.
I really don't like this whole deal, talking and stuff. I got really anxious coming to this whole event. About a month ago, I was real excited, but this past week, it's like, cause I really like camping and all, and it's like I get to. I don't know, you know, I get to camp out in nature, and I love nature, but about a week ago it set in, like, I'm going to have to talk to people, and I'm going to have to, like, you know, there's going to be other people there. I'm not just going to be able to just, like, isolate in my tent and just go out in the woods, and I don't know, and I guess I was a little scared of feeling stuff, because, man, all the meetings I've had today, and I've just been emotional, I guess, just hearing things that I'm relating to emotion-wise, because, yeah, I when I first got here, I heard, like, oh, you've been to this place, and I haven't been there yet, and it's like, oh, well, if I ever use again, yeah, that's where I want to go. And well, I've only done about this much, and I've only been using for 4 or 5 years. I mean, just so much stuff that I heard just like in the past like 20 minutes. It's overwhelming, and it's really cool. It's not very comfortable, but it's cool. But I mean, I'm excited to see like the excitement in others. It does, you know, it gives me hope. 'Cause yeah. You know. So I'm grateful for all the realness today. You know, the realness. I've been a concentrator on fake stuff, you know, stuff. I just looked up and there's people here. Someone just asked me 10 minutes before this meeting if I could chair, and I was like, sure. Of course, why not? I'm supposed to be of service, right? And you know, it does help me. If nothing else, it helps me get over this deal that I have. I have a lot of stuff that I'm ready to deal with, but I know it takes time, and that's why I'm here every day. Got to keep coming back. I'm just real grateful for everyone. If anyone else wants to share, sure. Yeah? All right.
Thanks, Jordan. I'm gonna act like Abby. Hey, Gabby. I never do this. I've been coming here since I was 15, and I never come up here, but then you reminded me so much of my first time here at Camp Mac. I was 15. A few people in this room were there. And I was dressed all in black, and I was super depressed, and I didn't think that I was going to make it another day, you know. And I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who it was, the other day, because I was laughing because I had just turned 32, and I was like, you know, when I first got clean, I wanted to lie about my age for like the first 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 years. And like now I'm like wanting to hide my age. Like I'm actually still 30, you know. I'm not 32, and how funny that is. And then I got here, and I usually don't reminisce about that kind of stuff because I don't really like the topic youth in recovery, because when I got clean, what kept me clean was anonymity. You know, what kept me clean was faceless addicts, and it didn't matter, you know, how much or how little I used, just what was my problem, and was I willing to do something about it. And I came in, and these people that were like 3 times older than me, they didn't say anything except, you gotta stay. They didn't look at me and thought, you know what, you got time, go ahead, go use. They were like, yeah, you should stay, you know, for sure. And it's crazy because I feel like I was talking to somebody who, my husband, who I've been together with for 15 years, you know, he used to go and stay at their house, like when he came up to see me, and how it feels like a lifetime ago, you know. And I definitely, like the first addict shared, grew up in NA, grew up as, you know, I was a child and I have become a woman, you know. I have had just big chunks of just learning how to, you know, not want to kill myself, you know, for a few years, and then learning how to enjoy life. And then I went to college and I learned that I had 6 years of full-time college, not knowing what I wanted to do, and going from, you know, psychology, because everybody wants to help addicts when we first get clean, and then going into sociology because I realized I just will help society, and then I went to all this other stuff, and then finally, you know, once at the end, you know, I decided I wanted to have a family and, you know, enjoy life, and I went into something else, and then moved to Cincinnati, you know, and I've been there for 8, 9 years, and it's just trippy how I never thought that I would be in the spot that I am today. You know, I have 2 beautiful kids who not only have never seen me using, but have never seen me crazy, you know, and it's trippy, you know, because I come back here and there are people here that have known me since I was 15, and they know who I was, you know, and they see me now, and I'm sure it's kind of trippy, and I work in an office, and I have, and I'm not saying this to brag, but you know, I'm responsible for 5 databases in 8 different countries and 3 different continents, you know, and it's crazy shit, and these people accept me, you know, and they don't know I'm an addict, but they accept me, and it's all because of you guys, and it's all because, you know, even though I was a youth in recovery, you know, you guys told me to stay because I was ready, and I don't know, I guess that's it. I don't like sharing up here either, never have, probably won't ever, but I was just grateful because you inspired me. That's all I got.
I'm Casey, I'm an addict. Youth is what Mike just told me. Basically, I came into the program when I was 13 years old. Came in with my sister Sarah. I left the Amish. I'd actually grown up Amish. I didn't necessarily have a father or a mother around. As a young kid, I've always fended for myself. It's like, basically, let me start with this. When I came into the program, everybody always told me that the newcomer is the most important person in the meeting, point blank. We welcome you with open hands, open arms. We offer our advice, and the newcomer always has advice that you need to listen to, I feel. Even now, with a little bit of clean time, after 7 years, I do not have 7 years. After 7 years of being around NA and around family members that I know respect me and at least care enough to give me a hug when I walk in the room, instead of walking out to the streets, hey, I remember you. I remember you. I remember what you did. But even now in recovery, when a newcomer walks in the building, I basically have to remember he is the most important person in the room. Why? He offers advice. 2, he's obviously coming into our program to ask us for something, or at least interested in some kind of program, or the people that are sitting around. Also, most importantly for me, is the fact that it puts me right back into the original position I was when I was a newcomer, when I came around and was trying to listen to everybody and gather stories. Bottom line is, it brings me back to the point where I was when I first started wanting to be clean and wanting to find some kind of answer. Being adopted, I was adopted into a very grateful family. That always strived, no matter what I did, always had my ass in the end. Both of my bio family mother and father are gone. They are deceased. I lost my dad last year, May 28th. It was kind of, the past problems I had with my father that had caused mental grief on me, I had to clear up. I didn't go out and make an amend. I realized this, which I do kind of feel bad about. I guess in a way I made an amend, and I guess not. But I'm not there. I'm not there to make amends. I'm not there. Many people have told me that. But it was a roadblock that I had in my life. It was something that caused me hatred. It's something that caused me pain, anxiety, stress. Always constantly thinking all the way throughout my life. Never once did I stop thinking, and just because of the problems I had with my dad, I knew he loved me. I grew up Amish. It's who I am today. I get the work ethics, if able. Like I said, I am deaf, so a whole lot of people don't hire me. My childhood is my childhood, and I've just had to learn to accept it and move on. I can't hold on to things anymore. Why let it continuously break you down? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I just block them out or, I deal with them when the time comes. But, I don't know. Basically, thank you guys for letting me share, and I appreciate it.
Would anyone else like to share? Can we close the group with a group hug and a prayer?